So
when I was back there,
this is the part of the show where Marcus does his famous. This is the only place you can do the sound check.
It is from the TV show Combat in the early 1960s. Yeah, it is from the TV show Combat in the early 1960s. Hang on, gee whiz.
I'm muted this time.
Yeah, that was me. I'm the culprit there. Holy cow. How amateur.
So you want to finish your combat story before you start the show?
Yeah, from the TV series Combat in the early 1960s when I was a very young man. Checkmate King 2. This is White Rook, over.
We got you, White Rook. I remember Combat. That was even in black and white, right?
Yeah, you weren't even a sparkle in your daddy's eye.
No.
Demarco.
No. What year was that? What year was it?
It would have been about 60.
Yeah, they were in the early 60s because they were in black and white. The late
it was black and white. Yeah.
Colors,
oh yeah. My dad was a senior in high school before Vietnam. Yes.
Anyhow, folks, Google search it if you want to know more info. We got to start this show today.
Yeah, let's talk about drones.
Yeah. Okay. 3, 2, 1. Welcome into DroneNation for October 7th, 2022, and this is another mini drone Monday here on the DroneNation network of shows here tonight. And we have the usual cast here, the usual co-host, and we do have a super secret mystery guest tonight. He'll be in a second. He's back in the green room now. Demarco said we have stripped back there now, so it may be tough to get him out of there, but I'm sure
very steak.
Sounds
very steak.
Sounds very steak day. Like the Eric Cartman, but
yeah.
But anyhow, folks, it's going to be a big show tonight. We got a lot of info to talk about. The Mavic 3 Classic, of course, did come out last week. We did a little special show, but there's a lot more to talk about than just that Classic. The firmware update that it came with, to me, is the bigger news or whatever for a lot of folks. We got some Autel news. We got the mystery guest tonight's going to have a lot. He's got a lot to cover. So, let's go around the panel and check up on how everybody's doing. Demarco will make his fearless Monday night forecast, and then we'll bring the mystery guest in. So, Marcus, what have you been up to?
Flying drones when I can. We've had some weather. It's definitely turned to winter here, and we actually even had a couple of days ago. We had snow on the ground, and we expect some more snow later this week. However, there are some patches of some decent enough weather to fly. So, of course, we had that update with the Mavic 3, and it's a significant update. And I'm anxious to hear how Shawn is doing with that as well. And so, I've been trying to test some of that stuff out. And I know you have as well, Ron. And I think it's a huge deal. Well, we can talk more about that later.
We're going to go down on this one by one.
It's been a lot of fun messing with that. But then today, I was out and I flew the too, which always brings a smile to my face. I was out at the park and it was just a spur of the moment. I threw it up in the air and had it follow me around a little bit and did a few tricks with it. And it's a fun drone.
And we're waiting for a firmware update to drop on that later this month, I believe.
They're going to enhance the keyframes where you can move, where you can change where the gimbal is pointed. So that's kind of cool. In other words, you can specify whether you want it pointed up, down, sideways, or whatever. So that should be fascinating. I'm looking forward to that as well.
Probably has some enterprise implications too.
Well, that's exactly what I was thinking. If you're doing an inspection or something, you could then program it to look at this corner of this bridge or whatever. So anyway, it's going to be a lot of fun for a hobbyist. It's just a lot of fun to mess around with. That drone never fails to put a smile on my face.
Right. Good.
Demarco.
Howdy. Good to see you guys. Good to see all the folks in the chat as usual. Thank you. Nothing special for me. I did fly the Mini 3 Pro last week, and it is still a good bird though. No play special. But I spent the weekend at the baseball fields. I sent you guys a picture. My son had his last tournament for the fall, and they came home champions. So that was good though. Yay! But no flying on the weekend, and we actually had a nice weekend too. It was really nice here. So
And you didn't fly?
Well, he just said he was at the
like
tournament.
unbelievable.
Yeah.
Like the game started both days at 8:45 on Saturday, and I didn't get home till after 4. Multiple games.
And now, Marcus, you won't want Demarco flying at those ball games. We've seen too much of that in the news lately.
Well, yeah, but
yeah,
not flying over the ball game, but he could have done an orbit around the field or something.
But I'm watching the game. I got to watch the game. Yeah.
I think there was a temporary flight restriction in effect, Marcus.
Oh.
Marcus getting his pills.
Yeah.
Ron?
I've been flying the Mavic 3 nonstop since the firmware update came out. I know that update inside and out. We're going to get to that later in the show. I've had a real good bunch of good weather. Usually something like this comes out, I have to test. Usually a bad weather, but I have nothing but good weather. But let's get right to what everybody really wants to hear tonight. The Demarco's fearless Monday night forecast. And let me set it up here. We have the 5-3 Baltimore Ravens versus the 3-5 New Orleans Saints, and Baltimore is giving 1.5 points in this game because it is in New Orleans now. And Johnny Droneflyer is waiting and watching this pick carefully here, Demarco. So be careful. That's Johnny's Saints are Johnny's hometown team, if anybody's not aware.
Oh yeah. Well, listen, I'll make this quick. I am going with Baltimore. My fellow Noel grad, Jameis Winston, is out for the Saints, so I'm not going with the Saints. Who's playing? Andy Dalton's the quarterback for the Saints, so I'm going with Baltimore to win it. So I'm back to 500 for the year. Book it.
Good job. And I don't know if we have it early. If anybody in the chat can put down any early.
Marcus, you got something to say, Marcus? Marcus,
I know nothing. You completely lost me.
Yeah. So with no further ado, well, actually, let's give anybody want to give a hint out to the chat who the mystery guest may be?
I think I have an idea. Does he live in Louisiana?
No.
North Louisiana.
Yeah, North Louisiana. So it's Johnny Droneflyer, maybe?
Johnny's had a birthday party tonight. He's unavailable.
What do you think, Demarco?
He's eating cake and ice cream right now.
Wait. Baltimore's winning. Thank you, Rich Flyer. Look at that.
Okay. Well,
I would say, is he from the States?
Or could he be north of the border?
You got Lauren Donauer?
Well, we couldn't get Lauren. We can't afford Lauren right now.
Gorilla Man?
Pardon?
Gorilla Man?
Well, Gorilla Man was had another engagement tonight, but no. We have one of the the most knowledgeable tech guys we know. He reviews, and he not only does drones, but he does the action cameras, phones, and he does it all, whatever. So, folks, we're going to talk a lot of drones early, but then maybe at the second half of the show, we may get talking about some action cameras, things like that. So if you don't like action cameras, we're trying to get all the drone news in first. So with no further ado, all the way from north of the border, and I was going to say, the frozen tundra, but I talked to him earlier today. He has good weather too. Everybody has good weather, even in Canada. So
Calgary is
not Lauren. I know not Lauren, but South Canada has good weather. So with no further ado, here he is. Shawn.
Hey, Shawn.
How's it going?
What's up, Shawn?
Thanks for having me on.
Welcome back. It's been
how's that lobster back there?
What's that?
How's that lobster in the green room?
Oh, delicious.
It's been a while since you've been on, and a whole bunch of tech has come out just in the past couple of months. It's been a busy fall, Shawn.
It has been.
Yeah. So I know you've got some of the the new drones, the hot new drones. I know you have the Avata, which that's kind of been the hottest drone of I guess the Mini 3 and the Avata back to back, 2 big home runs for DJI, and
they've got quite the lineup right now.
Pardon?
I said they've got quite the lineup right now.
Yeah.
Mavic 3 Classic now, Uvada Mini 3. Yeah, they got some really good products.
It's a tough line to beat if you're competing against it. Now I know you're an owner of the the Mavic 3. We'll call one of my subscribers said they got the names mixed up. The old one should be the Classic because it's older, but just the Mavic 3 regular. So you probably don't have a lot of use for the Classic because you have the regular Mavic 3 with the zoom camera.
Yeah, no, I as I mentioned earlier, I do have it in my Amazon cart right now, but I'm just trying to get some kind of justification to purchase it because, for the channel, because there's going to be a lot of people buying it, over the original Mavic 3. But yeah, it's the only difference is that, missing the camera. So it's hard to spend that kind of money.
It's a little bit redundant for us, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we talked about this on pre-show. We had a little confusion last week on the show because we had a price chart and actually it was help me out, one of the leakers. He put a price chart out the last minute and we thought that was wrong, but actually turned out to be right. And it seems to be that the prices in Canada are less than in the US. And Shawn, you said you have in your cart, and how much was it in the cart? In your Canadian card?
In the Canadian card, it's 2,300 Canadian. But if you go to the DJI website, it's with the DJI RC, it's $1,599.
Yeah, that's
so
great.
A little bit cheaper.
Yeah.
Yes, that's about $150 savings off of buying it in the U.S. And we mentioned too. I mean, it must be a tariff thing because the U.S. has been in some kind of a trade war with China, and tariffs have gone up greatly over the past couple of years. So anyhow, that you helped us clarify.
Yeah, a lot of their products
Marcus
are
tried to check the prices last week during the show, but he was kind of even if he went to a Canadian website, he was seeing the U.S. prices.
I was quoting Canadian prices, so and I was wrong.
Yeah. So anyhow, I figured we'd just kind of just run down the Mavic 3. Shawn, did you get a chance to update your Mavic 3, plain Mavic 3 to the new firmware?
Who, me?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, I did that.
And you've got a couple test flights now on it?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I've done quite a few flights. Yesterday alone, I think, because I have 4 batteries for it. And I was out at my sister's at their farm. They're in corn harvest right now, so I was just getting footage. I went through all 4 batteries.
Wow, that's a lot of flight time.
Yeah,
I think I put about 200 kilometers on it yesterday.
Great.
But then I flew a 5th battery because I put the Mini 3 up. I put a few batteries through it, and then I was charging up a 5th battery because by that time I was getting to sunset, and I thought grab some nice sunset shots as well.
Try that night mode out a little bit.
Yeah. I haven't actually. That's one thing I was going to do that last night when I got home, but I was too tired. I haven't really tested that out in the city yet. I want to. So that might be on my.
You're close enough to the city that you can go get some nice skyline shots.
That view where you're going down the river towards the city, Shawn, and a lot of your videos, that's going to be perfect for that night mode, isn't it?
Yeah, that's probably where I'll go to test it. There's not a lot of people around that area, so you don't get people bothering you.
Yeah.
Shawn, is that Toronto?
London. That's London. Yeah. The little London, not the big London.
Yeah, the little London. Yeah, don't worry. I know that because I grew up in Oxford, and Nottingham was the next town. So where I grew up in Pennsylvania, everything's named after something from England.
Ron, for God's sakes, you live in Margate. I mean,
yeah. I know every town I've been in and lived in is someplace in England, but I definitely know that. But okay, well, let's kind of run down some of the features. Well, first of all, the Mavic Classic arrived last week at higher price points than many expected because the leakers had them lower prices. So it was $1,749 for the one with the DJI RC, and $1,599 for the one with the regular RM1 controller, and $1,469 for just the drone. But those last two are not available yet. As far as I know, you can only order the 1749 package. Now, we kind of talked about this a lot last week, but Shawn, were you expecting those prices, or were you expecting lower prices?
It was kind of in that ballpark. I was kind of hoping they'd be a little bit less. And same because on Amazon you can get the Canadian Amazon, you can get the Mavic 3 Classic without controller, but it's not available till I think it said November 28th.
Mm-hmm.
So and it's still around the $2,000 mark Canadian. If that had been a little bit lower, maybe around the 1,700, I maybe would have bought just it.
Right, because that'd be perfect for you because you got all the controllers and the batteries. Yeah.
I've got a whole drawer of RCN ones that aren't being used, so you don't really. I don't like that they do that. I wish they would. With the Mini 3 too, they always wait till later to release just the drone. It would be nice if they prioritize that on launch day, but.
Yeah, that's pretty much follows their suit for the last couple of drones that buying just a drone by itself is.
I guarantee you there's a room full of accountants that have that penciled out. Their marketing people and their accountants that figure that out. Yeah.
Yeah. So Lon's saying that just drop it, tell you would never drop it 700 again, and we're just going on the early leakers. We heard $13.99 for the drone in the early days of the leak. So.
Yeah, I mean, Lon, we can dream, can't we, Lon? Can't we dream?
We can dream big, or in that case, small.
Yeah.
So anyhow, so a lot of people we know in the community that were thinking about buying that drone did not buy it because of that. They were expecting those lower prices and they did not get them, so they kind of backed off a little bit and they're waiting.
So Ron, I know of the group of people that we are all talking to and deal with. I know of one person that purchased it. Addie Overbeek bought one. Other than that, I don't know of anybody else. Do you guys know of anybody that bought one?
I don't know any. Marcus, did he have the first Mavic 3? Anything?
No. And so it made sense for him. He wasn't worried about the telephoto, and he wanted.
I think he may still been flying the Phantom 4 Pro or whatever. Maybe he had the Mavic 2 Pro.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember. Honestly, I don't remember, Ron.
Yeah. I think he was due for a newer drone, so it makes sense for somebody like Addie.
Yeah,
so, yeah.
Listen, here's the thing. I believe DJI is being very strategic about this. This firmware update, to me, is further differentiating the Mavic 3 from like the Air 2S and the Mini 3. They're adding features on there that make it, quite frankly, a more professional drone. And I'll bet you we continue to see that. That's got to be, because, there were a lot of people that are talking about, well, why should I buy a Mavic 3, the Air 2S, or even the Mini 3 have, all the same master shots and quick shots and all that, and, obstacle avoidance and so forth. So I suspect that's part of their strategy.
So do you think some of these features are going to trickle down to like the Mini 3, like cruise control?
That's a good question.
That's the biggest question out in the community, Shawn. Everybody messes me all day long. Will cruise control come to the Mini 3?
The only reason I would maybe say yes to that is because of that Pro moniker that they put on the end of the Mavic 3. That they might, in other words, if they come out with a Mini 3 SE or whatever, maybe then the Mini 3 Pro might get some of those features. It's possible. But for sure, I think they're definitely trying to push the Mavic 3 and make it more of a prosumer product.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I really hope they do. That cruise control is pretty handy. I was using it quite a bit yesterday. And I think just in general, for people with disabilities, dexterity, it could be very beneficial, right? Like, because realistically with it, you could fly with one hand then, right? If you set your forward motion, you could just use one hand to steer it. So I think that would be a good feature to have on all their drones just for that reason.
Yeah, that's a good. I'll tell you, I went to school on you, Shawn, because when I first tried it, I was just thinking it was just throttle control, right? Because you're thinking of like cruise control in your car. What I didn't realize is that you could do those complex motions with both sticks, and cruise control would hold those. And after I watched your video, I said, "Oh yeah."
I watched your video today, and and you made a good point. Like, when you're setting a rotation and then you hit the cruise control, it doesn't really make sense to do that with cruise control, right? Because you can do that with point of interest, which works better.
Yeah.
But the problem with that is point of interest is very bland, right? It's just circling an object, over and over again.
Only one move.
But with that, you can do a more wider rotation. Like, say you're flying backwards and you just want to add a bit of a curve to it, right? So it looks a little bit more dynamic. Those situations it comes in, it works well. And then while it's doing
kind of makes it look less automated, Shawn.
Yeah. And then you can control your gimbal, but you can also control the altitude still, while you're doing the gimbal. So yeah, you can do quite a bit with it.
Same thing. So I thought you'd go and do one thing with it. And I watched your video, and nice you could make multiple moves. And also, I wasn't aware you could change your you could move you could yaw it around as it was going in cruise control. Because when I first tried it, it was popping out of cruise control, and I thought it was because I was touching buttons, but I must have been doing something wrong because I flew it today.
Well, I find it's very sensitive. Because I've had that too. Like when you're setting the cruise control, you got to hold those sticks there for like a second afterwards, because I was doing the same thing. I'd hit cruise control, but I'm letting go of the sticks at the same time, and then it doesn't pick it up. Well, but I had a couple of questions. Have you done any tests? Like what happens? Does return to home work the same? Like say you fly out of range, like you have it just going forward.
Yeah.
I'm assuming it's going to return to home, but
I haven't tried it yet. But Aldrin, what's Aldrin's channel's name, Marcus? Flypath. He said the return home works just like it would. Yeah.
That's good. Yeah, I've had a couple of questions about that, and I didn't really know how to answer it.
Yeah. But to your point, Shawn, with that RCN1 controller, it sucks because you only have that one button you can program. And I just happened to forget my RC Pro that day. It's the only reason I had that. I was glad I had that controller. And I had to program that one button for it. But there's no way I could keep those stick movements and punch the button. So I literally opened the back of my Tahoe and I set the controller down so that I wasn't having to hold it. And then I could do the stick movements and hit the button. It was...
So what you're saying is the RC Pro is a much more friendly controller.
Well, because you have the C1 and C2 on the back. That's
now, which button did you guys assign cruise control to?
C2.
Yeah, that's what mine is too. C2. When I made that firmware video, I first set it to the C3 button at the top on the RC Pro. Yeah. And right away I had a comment from a viewer saying you should, it's going to be hard to press that. But I hadn't really thought that through yet. And then right away it's like, that's a little awkward. So I changed it.
I hate to admit this because he's in the chat right now. And I don't want to blow up his ego even more than it already is. But Lon Dennard told me already. But I had to be stupid. I tried the C3 first, of course. Had to find out the hard way.
Yeah, I just set it to the C3 because I don't really use that button for anything.
Right.
So I'm like, I'll just throw it there. But it doesn't really work.
Yeah.
I did the C1 just because whoever the very first video I saw, they did the C1. So I just did exactly what somebody else did. Aldrin also said in his video today, yesterday came out, that he said that obstacle avoidance works.
It should.
In cruise control, if you have it in normal or cine, of course it doesn't work in sport.
Not in sport, yeah.
But he actually proved it. I mean, he actually ran up some trees sideways, front facing, and it stopped. So I wasn't aware that it still had obstacle avoidance. So that's good to know.
Good to know.
Yeah, darn right.
So I really hope they bring that to the Mini 3 because I fly the Mini 3 quite a bit, just because of the regulations here in Canada, it's a little bit more lax. So I really hope they do bring that.
Yeah, I couldn't be happier with this cruise control. I think it's a great addition to the drone and just another reason to buy either one of the Mavic 3s. So,
Yeah, I
Well,
totally
my
agree.
problem is like when you're trying to get like a nice smooth shot, you get a little fidgety sometimes. You move or you cough or whatever, so sometimes you can ruin your shot, especially if you're trying to get like a nice smooth one, like along, like, like that can just ruin it. So, by introducing that cruise control, it just keeps everything nice and smooth.
Marcus, can you answer Mr. Bojack's drone sets question?
Yeah, Mr. Bojack, it is not on the Air 2S, and I thought he had the Mavic. Mr. Bojack, you don't have the Mavic 3? In case anybody doesn't know, if you ever watch any of the Chicago Fire or Chicago Police shows, it's Mr. Bojack that's doing all the drone shots in those shows. So
He probably has both the drones.
He's a real professional. But yeah, I would. It's not on the Air 2S, but I would have thought he had the Mavic 3 already.
Maybe he has both.
Yeah.
So. So we'll move on to it. The cruise control is the first thing I had on the list here. Okay, night mode was another feature that was added, came out with the Classic and added to the Mavic 3 standard, I'll call it. And it's available in 4K 30 frames per second. And it'll crank the ISO up to 800 to 12,800 to achieve these effects. But not only does it give you an ISO boost, it also does some kind of a digital noise reduction in house or whatever that you don't have to do out. And I know Marcus and I have both kind of tested it out a little bit, maybe not in the big city, that you see some of the other channels do. Shawn, have you got the test night mode out at all?
I did last night, just a little bit at sunset. When I was filming, it wasn't completely dark yet, so I didn't really notice all that much difference.
Mm-hmm.
But I haven't done it in the city yet. I plan on doing that maybe tomorrow, hopefully. Maybe even tonight if I feel up to it. Maybe after the show, I'll run downtown and grab some shots.
Yeah, if the weather's good, heck yeah.
Yeah.
Now, Marcus, you flew it over like a local kind of parking lot school, and what was that convenience, that gas station?
Yeah, it was a Maverick convenience store. Now, here's what I never fly at night, so for me, it's kind of it was just something to try out. But I for sure saw the difference, and Ron, you called me Dr. Automatic. I mean, so everything was in auto, and I was just switching between regular mode and night mode. But it was a big difference. I mean, it really showed the difference.
Yeah. You mentioned about auto. Now, I just put the night mode in and didn't touch any settings. Can you still adjust settings in night mode, or does that kind of lock?
Well, I'm sure you can. Yeah. I haven't tried it, Ron, but I think I've seen videos where people have done it. So,
okay.
Marcus, was it night or was it dusk when you were flying?
Oh, it was night. It was dark.
Night. Okay.
Dark.
Did you use the RC Pro or your phone?
The RC Pro. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I haven't tested complete darkness, but well, Marcus, you saw my video where I'm on the beach and I have it off, and you kind of it's dusk. The sun just said you really can't see anything. I hit night mode and the beach is lighted.
And it lit it all up. But Ron, you were in pro mode already, weren't you? I think you were.
Well, I was confused. I was using pro mode before I went into night mode.
Yeah,
I believe when I was in normal, it was in pro mode. But when I moved over to night mode, it went to auto.
Oh, that's possible. Yeah,
I wish I wouldn't have been in pro mode. I wish I'd have been auto before the whole flight or whatever, because I didn't. Maybe my auto maybe my pro settings caused it not to be that light and normal. I'm not quite sure, but anyhow. It doesn't affect it. Went into pro mode. All of a sudden, I could see everything on the beach, and before it was like dark and shadows.
It's computational photography, isn't it, Ron? I mean, whatever magic DJI swirled into that camera and that software, it's phenomenal what it does. It really is amazing.
And the iPhone 12 Pro had it a couple years ago. Remember
that's
that
true.
their night
Yeah.
mode was incredible.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Anyhow, I think it's nice that DJI finally has a night mode on one of the drones. Other companies have had night modes. So, and I know and I know what in the ISO in here, it moves the ISO at these numbers that you cannot adjust on your own. So again, it's doing more than you could actually do playing with the settings yourself, I believe. And again, just with that noise reduction.
But also, isn't the Mavic 3 the perfect drone for that because of the big sensor and because of the big aperture?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, then of as big as aperture, say that some of these mini drones now with their 1.7s and 1.8s, but the 2.8 combined with that big sensor, probably make it gather more light in than say the Mini 3 with the wider aperture, but the smaller sensor.
Smaller sensor, sure.
Yeah, everything's everything works together and so on. Our good friend Mike Wright says the cruise control is fantastic, and he loves that tripod mode again. I think Mike.
Hey, I don't want to derail us a little too much, but did you see Mike Wright's last video where he flew his Avata in the driver's side of his Ford Explorer and out the passenger side window? Mike, my hat is off to you.
And Mike doesn't he doesn't tell anybody he's such a hotshot FPV pilot.
Right.
Yeah. So, anyhow, okay. So we discussed cruise control and night mode. Okay, here's another one. It improved the I didn't type my whole thing out. It improved the output quality settings for Hyperlapse. And this is a confusing one. Maybe Shawn can weigh in a little bit.
I hope you can help me with that one,
figure out what that what do they call that mode you can go
preview mode.
The preview mode is for. Right. Shawn, do you have any idea what the preview mode is for?
No clue. I did actually film 2 hyperlapses last night, but they're hyperlapses I needed, so I didn't want to mess around with that because I wanted a good quality output. Yeah, I have no clue. It doesn't really make sense to me. I thought maybe at first it was like, maybe if you wanted to do your own processing on it, like it would just save if you want to do your own stabilization and that on it,
that's so the only thing I can think of too. Yeah,
I don't know. I haven't played around with it much yet.
Yeah, I mean, I filmed a complete hyperlapse in that mode and the preview mode, and it just saved this file to my RC Pro that just low res, no stabilization, and it gave me a cryptic message that said I had to connect it to the computer to transfer file. So I wound up having to take the memory card out of the drone to actually get the file on the computer, and it didn't record any faster than if I would have recorded the high res 4K version. So it didn't save me any time. It gave me a lower res unstabilized file. I don't know how that helps me in the field at all, but if anybody has, please let me know in the comments to any of my videos or this show, whatever, what you're supposed to do with that.
Well, so Lon is making a point in the chat, and listen, Lon, I would agree with what you're saying. Other than, you want me to highlight it, Ron?
Yes, please. I'm probably 50 comments behind.
Yeah. So Lon, I would agree with that, but when I went into the album while I was flying to see if I could see it, it's not there. I could not find the file that showed the hyperlapse. Just like Ron's experience, it was on the micro SD card. I could look at it when I got home and pulled that micro SD card out and looked at it, but it was not in the album. I may have been doing something wrong. I don't know. That's where maybe it could have some use, but other than that, I just don't get it.
Yeah, I mean, I see what Lon says makes sense. It gives you the preview so you can check the shot before moving on. But I mean, I guess I don't know how long it takes to synthesize the hyperlapse on the on the DGRC or whatever. But I mean, like the preview one, to help me out because it's just as long. It just took long to do over. I'd rather just shot the whole resolution one, the full resolution one, and you know, taking the chance. I maybe I'm missing the whole point, you know, of this. So you know, anyhow, I don't want to belabor it here. So okay,
Well,
here's
another question for you.
Yeah.
That one feature, I forget what it's called, what they're calling it, but where you can transfer files from the RC over to a smartphone. Have any of you been able to get that to work?
I haven't ever tried it. I haven't tried it.
I haven't tried it
I
yet.
tried it with my Air 2S. Air 2S or Mini 3. Yes, I did. In fact, I asked Johnny. Johnny walked me through it actually. But yes, it works.
Well, I think that's something different. They have it where you can transfer the files right from the drone over to a smartphone.
Yes.
But now they introduce, with the latest firmware, they introduced that where you could, like, I think it's supposed to be like if you do have screen recordings or whatever on your controller.
I haven't tried that then. No,
I haven't been able to get it to work. I've tried a couple times, but as soon as it comes up and they connect, it's all blank. There's no.
Now, is that trying to connect to Wi-Fi or Bluetooth?
I think it does it through Wi-Fi.
Okay.
I'm not 100% sure, but yeah, I haven't been able to get it to work. I've tried a couple different things.
I'll give that a try tomorrow and see if I can have any luck with it. But no, yeah, I forgot about that feature. I have not tried it yet.
Yeah, because it would be handy because I edit on an iPad, right? So when I need to get a screen recording over, I have to take a memory card out and transfer it that way. But I thought that would be pretty handy.
It would be, yeah.
It doesn't list any files. Like there's files there, but it just says that there's nothing available.
Shawn, I got to be honest with you. You were one of the first guys I thought of when I saw that feature because I know you do all your editing on your iPad Pro, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that'd be handy as heck.
Yeah, and the other thing, and Mike, I was talking to him earlier today. He's having the same problem. When I do a screen recording on the RC Pro, for whatever reason now, I've formatted the cards. It won't. My iPad can't read them anymore. It can read the ones from the DJI RC, but not the RC Pro. You plug it in, and it just, it's in a format that it can't recognize.
Really? Now I can still take
That's new. I don't know if it's something to do with the latest iOS update. Mike thinks it might have something to do with that.
Yeah, I know. I'm not having problems on the computer, but I haven't tried it in the iPad. But you know what? I'm having problems with the iPad. Do you use LumaFusion at all, Shawn?
Yeah. The last update's pretty buggy.
Yeah, I know updates killed my capabilities of putting my little SSD drive and editing off the SSD drive into LumaFusion. It doesn't.
Yeah, there is a fix for that. I know a lot of people were having problems, but they just released another update not a couple days ago or a week ago, and for whatever reason now, it's just causing all kinds of problem with media that if you have on different drives, or even if you're bringing in media from the Files app, it just doesn't download them. You put them in and they've got all those lines through it. You got to bring them up into the editor before they'll actually download. Yeah, a lot of people are having something's not quite right with it. Hopefully they get an update out soon to get that all fixed up.
One of the things I've noticed. Well, I'm sorry, Ron.
I will try that tomorrow to see if I can transfer those files over from the.
If you go to the
phone,
LumaFusion, their Facebook page, somebody had posted that in there, and somebody gave them a fix on how to get those drives back.
Oh, good. Yeah. Good. Look for that. Thank you.
Yeah, Marcus? One of the I was going to say one of the things I've noticed is that now the RC Pro does not save my screen recording. I can't get it to save it to the SD card. I want everything saved to that SD card. I don't want it on internal memory, but it doesn't do that. It saves it. It always saves the screen recording to the internal memory. All the cache recordings will be on the micro SD card, but the screen recording, for whatever reason, is always on internal memory.
Yeah, I have that same problem. I've never been able to get mine to record directly to the memory card. The DJI RC goes directly to the memory card.
So maybe that's where I'm getting confused. Like it could just be me getting confused there. It could be.
And I have the same problem, Marcus. I can't get screen recording to record to the SD card in the RC Pro. I have to move.
It's not that big a deal, but it's just another step.
Manually take the card out or whatever.
Yeah.
So I'm in that same boat there.
Yeah.
So, okay. So another feature that the Mavic 3 got with the firmware was it added ISO 1600 for D-Log. I wasn't even aware what the previous, ISO high was for D-Log, but that's a good thing. Shawn, do you use D-Log much?
Not much. I do once in a while. I do a little bit of commercial work, and sometimes it has to be in D-Log. And I think it was 800 was the max before, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, I don't do a lot. I'm like Marcus. These cameras are so good nowadays. You don't really have to, unless you're using an ND filter or something.
Yeah, right. I totally agree. The Hasselblad color science in the Mavic 3 is the best really I've ever seen. I really can't shoot in D-Log and get any better than what the Hasselblad color science does. But I understand your commercial things. It has to be in D-Log because they have to be able to match it up with other footage and editing. So
yeah, like with white balance, I'll usually set. Because I was even yesterday. When I started flying, was filming a lot of corn, which is like kind of bright yellow, right? The time of year. And yeah, I forgot to set my white balance, and of course, as soon as you turn the drone, the sun affects it.
Sure.
Yeah. It goes from being nice and golden to this ugly brown color. So yeah, that's the only usually setting that I know usually for sure always set.
And you just freeze it. You just freeze the white balance so it doesn't change. Yeah.
I just go in settings, put on manual, put on like 55, 5600, and if I'm out in the field and I see that it needs to be changed, I'll just change it, and thing. But usually, if you just pick a setting like that, it's right in most situations.
5500 usually is pretty forgiving, no matter what the conditions are.
Yeah.
Unless you want it a little bit warmer. Water. If you want your water or sky to be yellow, sometimes I'll turn it down a little bit. But yeah, 5500 is pretty
right
if you don't want to mess around with it.
Yeah. As long as you lock the same white balance in, you can adjust it in the editing software. If it's all the same, you're adjusting it all at once. So, okay. Another thing this update added was it added spotlight and point of interest when using the tele camera. So when I say the tele camera, I think it has to be the 7X. It can't be more. Yet it's only 7X, but you can do those two great features. The spotlight, which is the one where the camera follows something around. The drone stays still, right, Marcus? But it'll follow a moving object. And
no. You could. It would be just like any other point of interest. Point of interest actually orbits. So the drone can stay still. But
right. Yeah. If you don't do anything, it stays still. Yeah. If you don't touch the controls, it stays still.
Right.
But the point of interest, it moves.
Yeah, and even when you use it in spotlight mode, you can still fly the drone, and what it's supposed to do is keep that point of interest that you selected, wherever you put it in the frame. However, in my experience, I saw that it kind of moved a little bit, so it isn't as precise as what we're used to on the regular camera, but I still can see a use for it. Particularly if I think Richard in the chat said that if he's shooting wildlife, he wants to be way away from it, right? So, you're using that telephoto camera, and you could use it in a situation like that.
Right.
Plus,
or if you shoot a mountain or
really,
whatever, it doesn't. You don't really need the 7X zoom, but you're filming an animal or even a small object like a statue or something in the scene. The 7X zoom will really get you in tight.
Right.
Plus, you can do some really nice effects with it because when you're at that 7x zoom, it really pulls in the background.
Yes.
So
that parallax effect, Shawn.
Parallax effect,
if you're whipping around something, it looks really good. I actually did that yesterday. I don't use the tele camera a lot. Just the quality isn't there for a lot for what I do. But when you're filming a sunset, that tele lens works really well because it brings in most of the color that's at the horizon.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, last night I got some really good shots because, I was filming in the 7 times, and the sky was just all these nice purple colors, and that's all you could see. And then then you get that parallax effect.
Yeah. Again, it's a specialized lens, but just like you're saying, if you play around with it, you can find some things that can really do well for you.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, we have a question in the chat from Marcus's friend Tanya Gale. Tanya asks, would you replace the Air 2S with the M3 Classic? Anybody want to take that question?
Yes.
Okay. DeMarco?
Yes. Yes,
Ooh.
I would.
Shawn?
Easy yes.
Yeah, it'd probably be a hard yes.
Yeah.
A hard yes.
If you're looking to upgrade from the Air 2S, definitely, you're gonna, a little price bump. And
well, let me tell you, Tanya.
How about this advice for Tanya? Tanya, if you already have a controller that you like, such as the RC Pro, the DJI, I would wait until the Classic is maybe just available as just a
Hey, Ron. She's already got the Mavic 3 Cine, so.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, with the RC Pro, so
Yeah.
she's in good shape. But I think what she's getting at is she has the Air 2 right now, the Mavic Air 2, and it's a great drone, and she likes it. But she can't fly it with the RC Pro like you can with the Air 2S.
Right. It's not the S.
Yeah.
Maybe she could wait for the Air 3.
Yeah, who knows if there's going to be one or not. Yeah, what are they going to call it, Ron? The Air 3 Pro or something? I don't know.
Hey, what's the Shawn? He hasn't been in the show for a while. We've had this conversation on a lot of shows, Shawn. Okay, with the Mavic 3 Classic price where it is there any room for an Air 3 in the lineup now if the Air 3 has to be more than $999?
Come on, Shawn, tell us what you think.
I personally think there's room for it, even though there may not be a big price difference. It's just, even myself, like sometimes the Mavic 3 is just too big to fly in certain situations. It's intimidating for people, if you have to fly around a lot of people. The Mavic 3 is, fairly big when it's all unfolded. I think and it's big and heavy, compared to something like the Air 2S. I still think there's a market for it if, people have that choice, right? If they want a medium-sized drone, they don't need maybe all the features of the Mavic 3, save a few $100. I still think there's a market for it.
There's a slot in the lineup for it. Just one thing about what you're saying here. The only thing against what you said there is the Air 2S is actually noisier than the Mavic 3.
If they can quiet it down a bit, but I just mean size. Like people see a large drone. Like if you pull out something like the Inspire 2, people get a little nervous around it. It's just
in the US, I'll be calling the police on you.
Yeah. Well, Tanya and I were at the park the other day, and this lady came by. We just had finished. We were just getting ready to land our drones, and this lady came by screaming at us that she was going to call the police, et cetera, and we were going to get thrown in jail for 2 years. I don't know how she knew 2 years, but she said, they're going to throw you in jail for 2 years, she told us.
Maybe that's on the Part 107 training I missed out on.
Yeah.
So, hey, listen, before we move on, we have we got a news flash from our friend Mark Fisher up there in Rhode Island. He says, don't anyone talk to me tomorrow. My FPV controller for the Avata is coming on the UPS truck, so please don't text or call me, LOL. Mark has gone over to the dark side, folks. He used to be a camera drone guy, but he got that Avata and he got the FPV bug. So I guess that he has what do you call that wand controller, Marcus?
The motion controller.
Motion control. I guess so. Now he's getting the real controller tomorrow. So
yeah,
congrats on to Mark for
Well, so we should ask Shawn while he's here. So Shawn, I'm here. You know, goggles don't work for me because of the way my eyes work. So I'd love to have the Avata, but I don't because goggles just don't work for me. However, what I'm hearing from people, especially my friends in Europe, they're saying that motion controller is the one you want to use with the Avata. They say it works great and it's very accurate.
Yeah, it works well. I still prefer the controller. I find I can just have a little bit more precision. But yeah, you got to get it. Like, have you been able to try one like with those new diopters? Like,
I don't know. Here's the thing. I would have to be able to see the whole screen in one eye because my eyes don't work together. So yeah, I don't. Some
and
people
what about
tell me that it might
prescription?
work.
Like, can you get? Because I made that video. There was that Hans VR. You can get prescriptions.
Yeah,
Because that's what I ended up getting, and it made a world of difference for me.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at my eyes right now, they're not looking the same direction, and they never will. And so, like I said, only one of them works at a time. I mean, I can see out of this eye, or I can see out of this eye, just not both at the same time.
Yeah.
Wow.
I got a story for you. It's kind of since we're talking about FPV. So I had the DJI FPV, which I flew a fair amount. But when I bought the Avata, I sold it right away because I'm like, I'm never flying this thing again. You know, I love the Avata so much. Like, there's no way I'm just never going to fly it again. So I sold it, and then in typical fashion, I kind of regretted it. So I ordered a new one. Got it from Amazon, and I took it out for its first flight, and you know, everything seemed to go okay. I brought it back. I put a second battery in, but this time I decided to put a GoPro on the top. And I've always been a little bit leery about doing that because I can.
That's a full size GoPro, not the naked GoPro.
Full size GoPro, which a lot of people do.
Right.
But like, I've always been leery of that because I can tell as soon as I put it up, like even with my own, the motors sound different. Like it makes this weird humming noise, and they get really hot, like, really hot. And last year I had an Insta360 on it, the X2, and when I had landed it, I could smell burning. Like, those motors were so hot that it was starting to melt the plastic. So I was always a little bit leery. I always usually put my can't even think. The Go. The
Insta360
Go2.
Yeah.
Or the Action 2, because they're smaller and lighter. You know, it's not putting as much stress on the motors. But anyway, so with this brand new one, like I said, I had it a day. I did my first flight. I put my GoPro on it. I took off, and right away I could tell, you know, the motors were sounding a little bit weird. I put it up in the air about 20 feet, and I was just getting settled, getting my goggles on. Then 2 motors flew off.
Oh,
Literally flew off. And the drone just dropped, and I was able to find them. And sure enough, I picked the one motor up, and it was so hot, like it burnt me, like it burnt my fingers. That's how hot it was. And what it did, it melted. Like when you looked at the chassis, like where the motors mount in there, it's just like that composite material, that plastic. It's basically. So they got so hot. There's like the bolts holding the motors, and melted right through. And 2 motors came right off at the exact same time. That's how hot it got. So yeah, I was pretty thankful I wasn't around anybody. Like, there was nobody around. But
Shawn, just tell me you got that on video. Oh, I'm sorry.
No, I don't have it on video, but I have the video from the GoPro. And yeah, when you do frame by frame, you can actually see the motors flying off. So
that's amazing.
I contacted DJI. I'm like, hey, this is what happened. But I'm not going to do a care refresh. I'm just sending it back to Amazon.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, I just packaged it back up, and it was in about 20 pieces. And
now that's a DJI FPV drone.
Yeah, that was the DJI FPV. But the funny thing is, with the Avata here, you know, it's not as powerful. And I've had a GoPro on it, and these motors, they come back, they're ice cold. Like, they don't warm up at all. But yeah, the DJI FPV, as soon as you put a GoPro on it, they get pretty warm, like pretty quick. So I would that's the last time I'll put a GoPro or
Yeah,
anything.
yeah.
Because
Unless it's the new little cube GoPro. What are they? I can't remember what they call it.
the Mini.
The Mini.
Yeah, and speaking of that, I got not notification, but I noticed today they charged my credit card for it because I did the pre-order back in October when they put them up for pre-order. So they charged my credit card today, so they probably will be shipping in the next day or two.
November 18th was a date that we heard a few weeks ago.
Yeah, it says they'll be shipping on or before the 18th. So, but usually once they charge your credit card, they ship out like within a day or so. So I imagine we'll probably be seeing them before the 18th.
Now,
and anybody who pre-ordered, because originally they were supposed to come out on the 25th of October.
Yes.
But then that got changed. So I did get an email. Anybody who pre-ordered before that date, they're sending a free GoPro handler, which is kind of a nice little touch, I guess, just for the inconvenience.
Now, would that be a drone you try to put on top of the Avata? I mean, a camera you try to put on top of the Avata?
I don't know. It's not really that much smaller and lighter. I think when that one, what's that guy? He has one already. The weight of it isn't that much less.
Yeah. But I think the compact cube size may cut down on the weight distribution.
Yeah, well, I'll definitely be trying it. I kind of wish they'd made it a little bit smaller, though. More session style. But yeah, I'm pretty curious to see how it's going to perform.
Yeah, I think that's a camera. It's a niche product, but it's a niche product that I think a lot of people are looking forward to, Shawn. So, okay, well, back to the Mavic 3. It never ends here, folks. They added gain and expo tuning within the menu, and they kind of redesigned the whole kind of that whole menu for all that stuff. Have you played around with it at all, Shawn?
Just a little bit. I did.
Do you like the redesign of it?
What's that?
Do you like the redesign of it where they've kind of put everything in the same place?
Yep. Yeah, I like the way they have it set up now. It's just nice that I can slow down that cine mode, because I know a lot of people thought it was too fast because it's 18 kilometers per hour. I'm not sure what that is in miles per hour, but to me, it was a little too fast. I know you can slow it down yourself just by not moving the stick all the way, but sometimes, accidents happen. So yeah, being able to slow like cine mode down, especially, is a nice feature now.
So I took it to the extreme. I slowed it all the way down. I created tripod mode again. That was used to be on like the Phantom drones, where it almost didn't move at all.
Yeah. Yeah. What is it? And I think in kilometers it was like 3.2, I think, or something like that. I can't even remember, but it was pretty slow.
Yeah, I had the thing going under 2 miles per hour of full throttle, with all the settings turned all the way down. So again, I kind of brought back tripod mode, which a lot of people, I still get messages to say, when are they going to bring tripod mode back? I have to tell them what is back. You just have to change the settings yourself now.
Yeah.
So
yeah, and who was saying? I was watching a couple of weeks ago on your show. Somebody had made a comment in the chat that there was the possibility they're introducing waypoints again in the Fly app.
That is a rumor that it won't be long before waypoints makes a return to the Fly app. Rumor, though.
Yeah.
Because that they will not release an SDK for the Mavic 3. So it looks to me like DJI is really wanting to control that drone and what software runs on it. And so the thought is that they're adding waypoints because people like that and they want to be able to repeat a shot, etc.
Yeah, and they did a good job putting waypoints on the Mavic 2 Pro, but of course that was in the Go4 app. So, hey, Shawn, you got a shout out here from Mark R. Weiss, one of our biggest fans here on the show, and he says, Shawn
Manchester in the UK.
From beautiful Manchester, England. He says, Shawn, I use LumaFusion on my iPad as well, and I got LumaFusion after watching your videos of yours. I think it's time you do a current update one, please.
Yeah. I know I've had a few people ask that because I did a beginner's guide for it, but that was way back when it was version 1, I believe. So we're on like version 3 now. So a lot has changed. I should probably make an updated one.
One of our most talented videographers here, Mark Fisher, which is EM Drone One here, says he's a funny guy too. Show me your hands to you, but Mark Fisher, he's a great guy. He said he's a great professional, video producer, and he's the guy that famously rescued the DJI FPV
Oh no,
drone.
it was
From the depths of the water and at the Great Florida Drone Meetup 1.
Right.
Some guy showed up. He just got the FPV drone. They may be making for some of it up. It was his very first flight, right? He takes it up and he dunks it in the ocean. And Mark Fisher goes right in after it and rescues it.
Dive down and got it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
what happened? Like, what caused it to go in the water?
Pilot error.
Error. The guy
rookie pilot.
So I wasn't there. Ron was. Ron, you were there. But I heard the guy was bragging about flying like Tom Cruise when he hit the water. Yeah, Top Gun. Yeah.
Courtney's asking what software y'all use to edit on the iPad. I mean, I use LumaFusion most of the time. iMovie once in a while. Shawn?
Yeah, LumaFusion. I used to use iMovie for some stuff, but pretty well everything is now done in LumaFusion. It's a good program, and it's one of those ones you don't have to pay monthly for, so which is nice. You just buy it once, and they don't charge. Like a lot of times, companies will, like they'll have a version, then they make a new version, and you got to pay again. But they haven't done that. They give you all the updates for free. So,
nice.
Yeah,
and it's such a good piece of software that when Apple has one of their events where they're showing off, new versions of iOS come out, they always showed LumaFusion when they're showing how the iPad performs in video editing. So even Apple promotes the software.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And
here's another little story for you too. Something that happened. This happened about 3 weeks ago. So I think it was last summer, I reviewed, it was a fixed wing VTOL. So it takes off like a drone and then you can, and it was by HEQ. And with it, you had to put a GoPro in the nose. It had an FPV camera because the controller has a built-in screen so you could see where you're flying. So earlier this summer, they were doing a Kickstarter for a new one that had a built-in gimbal. So it had a built-in camera. You didn't have to put a GoPro in, so it just, it had a basic camera and nothing too fancy. So they had sent me one and it had beta software on it, to test it out and, make a video about it. So essentially the aircraft is identical. The controller is identical. Everything is exactly the same, except it has this new camera. And I took it out to my sister's farm because I like a lot of big open area for those things because it's pretty big. It's like 6 wingspan when it's all together, 5 feet, something like that. So I took off, I calibrated everything, got everything set up the way it was supposed to. I put it up in the air and I put it up to about 40 meters, I think it was, because you have to be a certain height before you put it into fixed wing. So I did that. I switched it into fixed wing mode and the thing took off and that was it. As soon as it went into fixed wing and it started flying, it disconnected me. I could see the FPV feed, but I had no control over it anymore. And I'm like, uh-oh, here's this thing. And it's gone. And I'm like,
no return to home or anything?
Well, I didn't know what it was going to do. I figured it was just going to go and fly until it crashed because I had no idea what it was doing. And eventually it lost FPV feed because it got so far. And this thing has like almost an hour battery, right? So I'm like, how far is this thing going to get? There's a city not too far from where I was flying, like, maybe 20 kilometers. So I'm like,
you're starting to get a little nervous.
Yeah, I was like, shit, So I started packing up, like the box and everything. I'm like, okay, this thing's gone. Should I, what do I do here? And sure enough, about 25 minutes, maybe half an hour later, I hear it comes back above me. So the return to home did kick in, and then it just landed. I still had no control over it, but I was like, what the heck is going on here?
Wow.
Man.
It's not a good feeling.
Oh,
Terrible
The size of it, right? Like I have no idea where it's headed.
So Shawn, when it came back, so it stopped vertical mode and converted to horizontal mode and
came
landed
back in fixed wing, and as soon as it got right above, pretty close to where it took off from, it went back into the
vertical mode. Yeah.
vertical mode, and then came down and landed, and then that was it.
Wow.
So I emailed them right away, and I'm like, yeah, this is what happened, and he said, we're scrapping it. Like, I forget what the exact. He said, we've had other reports of similar, and it didn't make sense to me because the aircraft is identical, right? Like, this isn't their first, venture into a VTOL. Like, this is exactly the same as the other one. The only difference is it has an FPV camera, so you'd think that the the software is pretty similar. Like, I don't know what was all that buggy with it, but. Yeah, that's the last for me. I'm not flying those things anymore.
And how much is something like that retail for?
I'm not
any idea.
I think it was under 1,000.
Yeah,
I'm not sure.
Well, why I ask is Richard SB. He's in here tonight. He recently sent me an email. Captain Drone reviewed a V. What is it? VTOL?
VTOL.
Yeah,
vertical takeoff and landing.
Yeah.
Captain Drone recently reviewed one, and it was from a company I never heard of before, and it was $1,000. And he pretty much had a successful flight with it, and like you said, it has a long flight time and everything. The only knock I could see on it had a camera, like a 5-year-old camera, had a like a 1/over, like something you'd be on the Phantom 4 or whatever. But Richard thinks that these VTOLs are going to be the future of droning. But apparently there's a long way to go before they're the future of droning.
Yeah, and they're very susceptible to wind, right? Because they're essentially styrofoam. So,
right.
They got a lot of surface area. So, you can't really fly them in really high winds. When it's in vertical mode, they're not too bad. But, trying to take off and land when they're in they're all over the place.
I've always seen this thing as sort of an enterprise type of product. I guess because Autel makes that dragon fish, which is what 5 figures the price of whatever.
Oh yeah.
So
for mapping, I mean, so where they need to loiter for a long time in the air, that's the advantage of it, right? And then they can do mapping and so forth with them, and like you said, Shawn, a battery can be up there for an hour.
And consumers, we kind of tend to want smaller drones now. I don't think we want to go back to having something 6 feet in length, but I don't know a whole lot about them. You just told me more than I knew already, Shawn. So
I don't know a lot about them either, and I thought it was something I had done at first, but I'd flown the first one, or flown at the first one, I should say, and I had no issues with it. I actually had it out quite a bit the summer before, but this one, it was just, it was not a fun time.
Yeah,
I'm just thinking there's a pretty busy highway not too far from there. I'm like, geez, if this thing crashes on the highway and causes a pileup,
too bad you didn't have a lot of. Too bad you didn't have a lot of video rolling on this show, and it would have been your most successful video in the channel for a while. People love to see a drone going wrong video.
I actually have video of it taken off and a lot of cursing in it. Like what? That thing doing?
That is a terrible feeling. Terrible.
I'm gonna pack up and I'm out of here. I'm not gonna. But but apparently I ended up giving it to a guy, and he contacted them because he was having, I don't know what he was trying to do, but apparently they've released a new firmware update for it that was supposed to correct the problem. But I don't think if they contact me again, I don't think I even want to.
What's the flight time on it again, Shawn?
I think it's rated for like 50 minutes, but you can get, depending on the wind and everything. It says that you can longer, like
Anywhere.
10
Yeah.
minutes.
Yeah.
Whew. Marcus,
Well, okay.
I think you should get one, Marcus.
You know, that company, there was a company, and I can't remember their name. They contacted me and said they were going to send me one for a review. And I'm sure this happens probably to you all the time, Shawn. Then I never heard back from them.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
It may have been, maybe that's the company that made the one that Captain Drone has. And Richard did also say that he heard a rumor that Phoebe's working on a VTOL.
Hmm?
I saw that post. Yeah, well, you know, there's really, you got to kind of hand it to FEME. They don't miss much. I mean, they also try and fill a lot of niches. So, yeah.
Yeah, and Mark, did I see on your channel you got the V2?
Not the V2. I got the 2022 version, but I didn't do that V2 with the drop thing. I didn't see much point in that.
Yeah, I got one here. Not right from FEME, this third-party company. Like they were on Amazon. They wanted me to take a look at it, so they sent it to me a couple of months ago. But I can't get the damn thing. Sorry, I can't get the darn thing to fly. Because they sent that TX10 controller with it.
Oh,
Okay.
Ooh.
And I can fly it with the basic controller, but because they really wanted me to, like to review the controller. But I'm having a heck of a time with it. They've sent me all different firmware files, and but yeah, I've kind of given up on it.
We need to put him.
Got a lemon.
We need to put him in contact with fellow Canadian Gorilla Man.
yeah.
Well, I've watched his videos.
Yeah.
But my issue is something a little bit different. Like even just the connection, and they had me flash this thing. And like I said, it wasn't even right from FEME. It was from another company. So then I was on support with FEME. So they said that I should send it back, and they're going to send me another one. But I don't know. It's just I've already got a lot of time invested in it, and
that's the problem with that stuff, isn't it? That is the problem with those kind of products. Is you better be willing to spend some time tinkering around with them.
Mhm.
It's just
Just watch Gorilla Man's videos, and you'll see the time he put into them.
yeah.
Yeah, and that's the nice thing with DJI. They're just for the most part going to work, and if there is a problem, it gets fixed pretty quick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And usually it's not a problem so big that the drone doesn't take off. So yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, listen, Lon's got a message showing for you in the chat. He said he just tested the quick transfer and it worked perfectly on his S22 Ultra and his Tab 8 Ultra. So he has no problem. That's a all Android workflow there where Shawn, I believe you're an ISO or Mac, iPad ISO.
Yeah, so maybe it's an
Apple
iPhone. Thing. Yeah. I do have an Android tablet. Maybe I'll have to test it with that.
Test it out. Hey, let's wrap up here real quick on the Mavic 3. I'll read the last three all together. If anybody has any comments, we'll just spit them out. It added support for the EU C1 certification. It added support for the remote ID in the US, and it fixed the issue that the color was abnormal in DNG, aka raw photos. Go ahead, Marcus.
We skipped one of the biggest things, Ron, and that is the expo tuning that they put in there.
You just went away for a few seconds. We covered
okay,
it.
that's when I was gone.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, folks, but I think that's another step that they took to make the Mavic 3 more on the prosumer end of it.
definitely. Actually, to get some functionality back that was in the Go 4 app.
That's true.
Yeah. So, it's good that the drones certified for the EU and the US going forward when the laws kick in, especially for us in the US. Next September will be when we're required to have remote ID compliant drone. Shawn, does any of this make any difference to Canadians?
Not as of yet. I imagine some form of remote ID won't be too far down the road. But right now, it doesn't really affect us.
Yeah.
And I'm not quite sure that, like, it's not really like any kind of legislation here yet. So it would be like an invasion of, the Canadian Charter of Rights, like
Right.
collecting that kind of data without, there being legislation for it. So
Right. Some lawmakers and people voted in the office would have to decide on that.
But I imagine it will be coming at some point.
Shawn, did you notice any issues in abnormal color with D&G photos in the past?
Yeah, no, I don't take a lot of photos with my drones. I'm not so much into the photography end of it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have the great eye for like photography, so there's nothing that I really noticed. But obviously, some people were having issues.
Yeah, I couldn't say I noticed anything, but I haven't done a real side by side looking at an older D&G compared to newer one. But I will, I will get to that in the future. So okay,
sorry, can I interrupt here for a minute?
Yeah, you go right ahead.
So going back to what Lon said and what we were discussing earlier about that transfer thing, it wasn't called quick transfer. They had another name for it, but I've just been going through all the firmware releases, the firmware release notes on their website, and I can't even find reference to it anymore. So I'm wondering if, did they remove it from the, what was it under? Was it under the RC Pro or the DJI RC? I can't even remember now.
Yeah, I don't remember either, but I do remember seeing it in the notes.
Yeah, well, so did I.
Was that in the notes for last week or the week before when all the stuff came out for the, the make the DJRC compatible with the Air 2S and the mini update? Which one was that bundle? Which update was that associated with?
I don't remember either. I'll be honest with you.
There's so many firmware updates; it's hard to keep track of them.
I know we had a great I don't know, with great or busy 2 weeks in firmware updates. That's for sure.
Yeah, but I can't. I just went through every, for the Mini 3, but I can't find.
Let me message Aldrin. If Aldrin doesn't know, nobody does.
Yeah. Hey, so I know where you're probably going next, Ron.
We got to move along here. We're running. We're over an hour, so we got to get into the Autel stuff, Marcus.
Oh, okay. I thought you were going into the cameras, but yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Okay, now we talked about this a little bit last week, but Autel has already announced their Black Friday sales, and I know Best Buy, among others, already had these prices in effect, even though the article said they're Autel themselves they wouldn't be for another week or so. But the Black Friday sale on the Autel Lite Plus and the Nano Plus drones. Now get your pens and paper out, folks. The Autel Lite Plus will be $1,079 US, and for the premium bundle, which includes two extra batteries, ND filters, extra props, a bag, $1,199. So that's only $120 extra to get 2 extra batteries. And
hold on, Mark. Ron, how many batteries come with it?
3 in total.
Yeah, you 3 in total because you get one with the drone, and then the bundle would have 2 additional batteries.
Okay.
So, and then the Nano Plus, the drone. Now, hold on to your hats here, folks. $659 for the drone. That's the drone to control. In other words, that's the drone that was $959 a week ago.
Yeah, I paid close to $1,000 for mine, Ron. So,
and the premium bundles, get this, $709 for you wind up with 3 batteries, a bag, extra props, and so on. So, I mean, this is something we've been saying for a while, I think, on DroneNation, especially with the Nano. Both these drones, they were a little overpriced when they first came out. I think if they had been priced a little sharper, they would have sold better. But both of them seemed a little high with these prices. Now they're right in line where they probably should be.
Hey, Ron, I don't want to interrupt, but Mark White has come up with something here that I think is going to be of interest about that transfer.
A quick transfer.
Yeah.
Okay, he says on the RC, go to album. The yellow box comes up with a little symbol at the top to press and gives you a barcode and tells you to open the flight app on your phone or iPad and join them together. Yeah, I haven't seen that at all.
Yeah, like I can get it to do that. Like I can bring up the barcode and it says it connects, no issue, but then it doesn't list any files to transfer. That's the problem I've been having, but I haven't tried it on an Android device yet. So
Mark, are you on Android?
I think Mark is iPad and iPhone, I believe. So
okay,
yeah.
And going back to the Autel, Ron, you know, because we were talking earlier about not the Lite Plus, but just the regular Lite.
The harder to find one, the one that has the same camera as
RYYB sensor.
It has the same camera as the Nano Plus.
Yeah.
So I went if you go to the Autel website, like it doesn't even list that drone for sale anymore. Like it has the Nano and the Nano Plus, but it just has the Lite Plus. It doesn't list the regular Lite.
Yeah, I don't know if Ross is still in the chat, Australia Panoramas, but he actually had to find, he wanted one because of that RYYB sensor, and he found a store in Hong Kong, of all places, to sell him one.
So have they discontinued it then? Maybe they're just selling whatever.
Well, I don't know if it's so much discontinued, Shawn. That drone, even though they announced it more than a year ago this time, that drone didn't come out until, I don't think it came out until just recently, and it came out limited release, just like for all I know. I don't think the Nano regular is available anywhere to buy. Like, try to go buy just a plain Nano, and that was the same way with the Lite. Just try to buy a regular Lite was almost impossible. But I know that Ross I know he linked me. You could get it at I think Autel Pallets. If it was limited availability there, and there was another website which I forget the name. They're another small Asian website. They had it too. And if you look real hard on Amazon, you could find some people selling it, but they mark it way up. Yeah. You know what I mean? They mark it way up beyond the retail.
Like I have one of the like this isn't the Plus, this is just the regular Lite here. But I was worried because I want to get that their new smart controller, because it's supposed to work with the Lite and the Nano at some point. Yeah. But then I was thinking, well, if they've discontinued it or aren't pushing it anymore, they may not add compatibility for just the Lite, like only the Lite Plus maybe. So
I think that they had the same chipsets in them. I think you'd be okay, with it. I don't think it could differentiate. I think the only difference is the camera between the Lite and the Lite Plus. I don't think there's the camera and the gimbal. As we mentioned off there, the Lite has the ability to get the vertical video like we see in the Mini 3 Pro, where the Lite Plus does not have that. But the Lite Plus has a 1-inch sensor and it has a variable aperture, which the Lite does not have.
Yeah, and that's why this one is for the vertical video. Because I do a lot of filming in vertical. But yeah, hopefully it will work.
And the vertical setup on this is even better than what we see in the Mini 3 Pro. The vertical video, it'll keep spinning around while you're filming.
Yeah. I actually have a video I'm gonna probably release maybe next week or the week after. I like how they've done their vertical video, because you can turn your phone too, and the whole app will go into vertical mode.
Wow.
Yeah. So it just makes it a little bit easier to see what you're filming. Things a little bit bigger.
Yeah.
But yeah, they do those inception shots where it'll just keep spinning. Yeah.
Well, I'm glad you brought the smart controller up, because that's the last thing on the list here. Our good friend Ken, Original Dobo, debuted a video last week where he had the Autel Evo 2 Pro V3. Where do these people get all these names from, right? And he bought in that video. He also was using the new Autel smart controller that you mentioned a while ago. It looks like what shows it as a 6.5-inch 800 nit screen. So it's an inch bigger than what we have on the RC Pro and the DJI RC, but the nits are less than the Pro, but 100 more than the DJI RC. So it's kind of a tweener between the two controls, and we believe it's going to retail for around $700. So the price is in the middle of the two DJI controllers too. So it seems like a good controller. The only miss for me on again, the same miss that the Nano and Lite things out of the box had, it had no speed switch on it. When you change speeds, you have to either go into settings or assign to a function button, or So
like that's an Autel thing. My original had the same problem. You had
no
to
speed
go into the
switch.
settings and change it. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Is anybody planning to actually get one?
well, I mean, our good friend Johnny Droneflyer is real interested in the Autel Lite Plus Premium bundle, but we were trying to work this out. From the $11.99 sounds like a great value, especially compared to the Classic. But when you factor in that if you want a smart controller and you tag another $700 onto it, now you're at $1,900 for that package. Compared to where you can get the Classic with the DJI for $1,749. Now I know that you only have one battery at that point, but
40-minute flight time, and then just buy a second battery, another $200. Yeah, but I get your point is well taken, Ron.
What do you think about that, Shawn? If you had to recommend to one of your subscribers if they were going to get the Lite Plus Premium bundle for $11.99 or the new DJI Classic?
Yeah, the DJI. But you think they'll be selling any bundles, once it's fully available and released? If they have like
right,
the mini or the Lite that have, because then they shave a little bit off because they don't have the cost of the basic controller in there. Then it might be a little bit more reasonably priced. But
well, I mean,
yeah, it's hard. It's even I like Autel, but sometimes it's a hard sell. Like the DJI is just, they're polished, compared to Autel.
They work.
Yeah. Now, I mean, I've had the I didn't get the Nano Plus right away. I didn't get it until May. I got it from the Autel eBay store, so I got the premium bundle like $100 less than when it was new or something like that. And when I first got the drone, it did have some some software issues and bugs, but with the firmware updates that have gone through the summer, it's a much more polished drone now. Am I saying it's as polished as the Mini 3 Pro? I'm not. But I'm saying it's made some improvements. It's made a lot of good improvements, over the course of the the summer. And of course, Autel always has that thing. They don't have the geofencing, so you can lots of times with the DJI drones, you'll be in a legal area to fly, but you can't take off because of geofencing. Where that does not have that, which is of course with all the Autel drones. So this is a tough question. I mean, Johnny. And the camera looks really good on that Lite Plus. You've had the Lite Plus also, right, Shawn?
Yes, yeah.
And you were impressed with the camera,
the camera on the Evo 2 Pro, and I get some flack for saying this, but I still say that's one of my favorite cameras. Now maybe not to the Mavic 3 because Mavic 3 wasn't out when I was reviewing it, but the images that I could get off that Evo 2 Pro, like, I'm not a professional by any means, but just leaving it in auto, it was, I was always really impressed. Especially
I'll concur with you. It was one of my favorite one-inch sensor camera drones.
Yeah, especially you living on the coast. Like I found, like even with my Mavic 3, I still have a hard time really capturing sunsets. Like it just never looks the way I want it to. Mm-hmm. I play around with all the settings and that, but the Evo 2 just, the skies would just look so, incredible.
Well, that's
without having to adjust anything.
Yeah, that's a little Nano secret too. The Nano does a great job on kind of sunsets and sunrises too.
But yeah, I really liked it. I sold it because it just was a big clunky drone. And of course, then all the newer drones were coming out. So I try not to sit. I used to be a collector of drones. I had way too many, but I started selling them just because
You're not like Mikey. He says he gets attached to it.
I know.
He can't sell them. Yeah.
I keep telling him, sell them.
Yeah.
I said,
he sells one once every blue moon. But back to the Evo 2 Pro, I could still argue that is the best drone in the Autel line because it still has 18 sensors, so it still has the most sensors. It's still the hardest to crash Autel drones because the Lite and the Nano only have the front, back, and downward facing sensors. So, but the Evo 2 Pro has 360 basically. Kind of on par with the Mavic 3 and the Mavic 2 Pro, and it has that that long flight time. Well, I mean the Lite Plus has good flight time, but it has good flight time. It has the big one sensor with the log. All the bells and whistles are still in that drone. Yeah. Is it big? It's big, but it still could be argued the best drone they have in their line.
Yeah. Now that with the V3, like it's still using the same camera though, right? Like they haven't changed the camera.
I believe it's the same camera. Yes. Yeah, I believe it's mostly internal. I know the reason they went from V1 to V2 is because during the COVID they ran out of the chips they made the V1 with. So I don't know why they went to a V3 chip. I don't know what they gained from that. Maybe Ken said it in his video.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I think it has better transmission, doesn't it? It's supposed to have better.
Yeah, you're right. I think the first one. I had the first one. I think it only had 2.4. I don't think it switched back from 2.4 to 5.8 like the version 2 and 3 do.
So you guys brought it up. I'll tell you the only Autel drone I've ever owned is that Nano, but I don't think I have ever had any dropouts with that drone at all. Any control issues, out of range or FPV. I mean, they really did a good job on control with that drone.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I did a range test on it, and it was. I found it was right on par with OcuSync. When I was in the rural area.
Yeah, there's no signal issues with that drone. I mean, I'm not a range tester, but I don't see any signal issues with it at all.
Well, but what I run into, and I'm sure you do the same thing, Shawn, because where you're at. So often I'm like, if I'm at the Boise River or something, I'm trying to shoot through trees, and that can be one of the hardest things that signal strength wise can cause issues. And I even can see a difference between OcuSync 3 and OcuSync 2 in that regard. But that little Nano, I mean, it doesn't, it'll shoot right through those obstacles. It does well.
Yeah, it does.
I mean, anybody who want to shout, my friend Alex is in here. He won't ever sell his Air 2S. He loves that Air 2S, and he loves the 360 Spirit. But I was about to say that anybody looking for an affordable drone, that Nano Plus for $659 or the bundle for $709, that kind of if you're a beginner or somebody that only has like a tool drone.
That's a good buy. Yeah, it's a good buy. Yeah,
I mean the Mavic, the Mini 3 Pro with the standard RN is $759, I believe. So it's a little bit cheaper than that. I'm comparing that controller because the Autel, you do not get any type of smart controller for a 709. You just get you put your phone in, which again was what the RN one's like. But yeah, I mean, and these, Shawn, you mentioned about a bundle. These supposedly are only Black Friday prices, so supposedly these prices won't stay forever. But it's hard to see them raising like the Lite Plus back up to like $1,700-$1,800 again. So maybe the prices stick.
Yeah, it's the competition's getting pretty. With when you got like the Mavic 3 Classic, the Air 2S, even the Mini 3, their prices are a little too high at what they were for what for what you can get from DJI.
Yeah. Hey, Silver Surfer, we did mention the expo. So we did talk about that about maybe a half hour ago. We did work it in there. We didn't talk about it long, but we did talk about it.
He's digging him. Well, anyway, so Ron, can we I want to bug Shawn about the Action 3 a little bit. Can we switch to
Oh
that?
yeah, he's got some information for you.
Yeah. So I'm wondering if did they come up with anything on that focus issue to fix that?
I don't know. Me and Ron were talking about this. I decided to skip the Action 3 this year. And the reason being is I did initially pre-order it when they launched it back in September, but the shipping was like a month. Like, I ordered it right from DJI, but it wasn't going to be, shipped until sometime in October. So, I was just going to sit and wait for it. But then, of course, people did get them early, and, the forums and Facebook groups were full of focus problems. And then, I just decided, I just don't want to mess around with that.
Let them sort it out.
And it wasn't, it looks like a really good camera. I love their new mounting system, because I like that with the Action 2. And the battery life looks really, really good. But it just, there was nothing really there more on top of that than, than what I already have with like the Hero 10, the Hero 11. Like there was nothing that really made it stand out that, where it's like, I need to have that. Plus they didn't have the gyro data built into it, which is pretty important. So I just decided to skip it this year. I really like the Action 2. Like to me, that was, the video quality is decent, and I just really like the form factor. Like it's something unique. It's different. If I want a small little camera for, mounting somewhere, so I really hope myself that they don't steer away from that, but I'm assuming if, they didn't name it something different, like they have the Action 2, now the Action 3. So I'm assuming they're scrapping that idea of that modular system. Unfortunately,
I sincerely hope they keep it to as well, Shawn, because I'll tell you, and of course, this all depends on your use case, right? The thing is, it's not really an action camera because you can't, when you have the bottom part attached to it, the Action 2 I'm talking about. But for the way I use a camera, it's perfect for me. And I have two of them. And it's so even the overheating thing is not such a big deal. Not that I've had that big of a problem overheating, but sometimes if I'm out in the bright sun on a hot day, hey, about 35 minutes in, you'll get that heat warning. It takes literally seconds to switch out to the other camera. Just that magnetic mount, chunk, chunk, boom, you're off and rolling again.
Yeah, I haven't had too much of a problem with it overheating. Usually when I'm recording with it, like I'm under 30 minutes usually, so it hasn't been too big of an issue. But everything overheats. The drones overheat. Your iPhone will overheat if you have it outside and you're filming for an hour with it. Like they'll overheat too. It's just.
I've had it overheat. My 14 even. I've had it overheat just out taking pictures out in the sun. In fact, I was out at the racetrack. I drag raced.
Is that the Pro? Do you got the Pro Max or?
It's just the Pro, not the Pro Max. Yeah. But I was taking pictures of cars at the racetrack, and all of a sudden I couldn't see the screen. Well, it overheated to the point that it shut down the screen. Yeah. They.
I was pretty impressed. I don't know if they have it on the Pro, if it's just the Pro Max or if it's the Pro, but that new, like they've upped the nit brightness of the screen, and it is pretty impressive. We were shortly after we'd got them, we were on the beach, and my wife has the 13 and I had the 14, and you couldn't even see her screen, like it was hot and it really dimmed down, and mine was like as bright as could be, and we were kind of using them about the same. So they did a really good job with that, but I don't know how long it can sustain that for, before it overheats. But but usually you bring your phone out in the direct sun, it's hard to read. But they did a pretty good job with it this year.
I totally agree. The other, I know this isn't iPhone Nation, but the other thing that I'm running into is battery life. I am just not getting the battery life out of this guy, and I think it's because of the always-on display. But
can you turn it off, Marcus? The always-on display.
You can, but you know what? It's no big deal. I mean, I just like if I'm in my car, I'll plug it in for a while, or it's not that big a deal.
A couple of people in chat, Mike Wright and now Richard mentioned that DaVinci is coming to iPad soon. DaVinci Resolve.
Yeah, I read that.
Yeah. And there's supposed to be a free version too. So that's something.
LumaFusion will have some competition.
Yeah, especially through the Resolve Faithful and desktop.
Yeah, I don't know if I have the patience to learn a new program. I've got LumaFusion pretty well. I'm pretty good with it, so I don't know if I have the want to learn something new.
I use Resolve. I used DaVinci back when it was just a color correction tool, and then I used it even when it added the editing capabilities too. But I switched many years ago to Final Cut, but I've used it at one point. So,
is that what you edit on, Final Cut?
Yeah, I mean, I'm on everything. I use Final Cut and iMovie on the computer. If it's a simple edit, I just use iMovie. If it's nothing. Yeah. You do really. I use Final Cut and I use LumaFusion on the iPad and a little bit of iMovie on the iPad too. Again, if it's nothing to do except just cut a video up a little bit.
Yeah.
So, but well, listen, we've been going an hour and 41 minutes, so we're gonna let everybody get going here. Thanks for everybody who stayed around the chat. We went a long time tonight, but we had a lot of information to get out there. Quite a big update for the Mavic 3, the firmware that brought the features over from the Mavic Classic and so on. And I want to thank Shawn for being on tonight and helping us go through a lot of stuff in the Mavic 3. We didn't even get to talk about last week did, but with you, the Air 2S being compatible with the DJI and all the nice things that the Mini 3 got 2 weeks ago. It got a substantial firmware update too that made it a better drone. But maybe at another time we'll have you back and we'll kind of go back to some of that stuff. If the technology release cycle ever slows down here, I mean, again, you're looking forward to your GoPro Mini coming soon. And do you think there'll be any more drones before the holidays coming out? Will we see the Inspire 3 before the holidays?
I don't know. I hope not. I hope it comes out my budget doesn't allow for it until about January. So
yeah.
Save it to pick one up, but yeah, if it comes out right before Christmas, I don't know. I might have to hold off.
Mini 3 SE, maybe Mini 3 SE. I'd buy that one.
Yeah. Could be a good stocking stuffer.
Stocking stuffer. There you go. Yeah.
So
get that sock.
All right. Well, I'll get out here quickly here tonight because we're going on too long. So again, want to thank Shawn for being on with us. Want to thank Demarco Marcus for helping me co-host the show, and especially want to thank everybody out in the chat, all the good comments and questions we had tonight. We had a great group of people out there as always. The guys add so much to the show here, all the information you present out there. Like on the what do you call that sync stuff we were talking about, where we're trying to get the data off the RC Pro to the phone. So thanks for all the help there. And we'll be back, I guess, next Monday. Somebody in the chat already, so many people, somebody in the chat let me know I put the wrong date. I said it was October 7th to November 7th. It felt like October 7th weather-wise here today, but it's actually November 7th. So
it feels like November here. Trust me.
Okay. Yeah. And to some people, it probably feels like December, but anyhow, that's it. Good night, everyone, and fly safe.
Good night, everybody.